Pam,
Hello, here we are back again.
once
AI
again,
in action
learning more every day.
every day. And I think
Uh,
what's so interesting is, even as we were preparing for this session, things keep changing. Like we're learning, but all these platforms are learning and getting better.
Isn't that
Right?
true?
Isn't
I
that
mean,
true?
a little sneak peek. We're gonna have this episode is about what we don't like in AI because there was a few things that didn't work, and now they seem to be working as we prepared for this. So
Right? Right?
the speed of features being deployed and everything else is just unrivaled.
Phenomenal, phenomenal.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you got a few pet peeves you wanted to
I got,
share.
I got a couple of things, and as we said, they do continue to address some of these things. One of the things that I think is really important, and is particularly if you're using the free version and or a slightly older version of something like a Chat GPT, is the data that is pulling from can be older and can be out of
You
date.
mean an older model?
An older model, and but also the older models basically grabbed the web at a certain point in time.
Right.
And so, when it first came out, it was in, December 22, and it really had only grabbed up until like the end of 2021, even,
Yeah.
right? So, like, it was almost like the world had stopped. It's getting better at that now, but I have still seen the odd time where it's older data that it's pulling from. Perfect
Yeah.
example is when I was trying to do those Girl Guides action figures, right? It keeps pulling from very old brand assets, logo assets,
Yeah.
not current, right? So I think that's an interesting one. What is? Oh, sorry, you're about to say something on that, and then I'll.
How do you get around that?
So what I have been doing is two things. Number one, I if it doesn't actually include them, I now ask for sources so that I can really understand when the source took place. Second thing I'm doing is I'm actually using two models against each other. So lately, I've been asking the exact same questions in both ChatGPT and Claude, and just to see, partly as an experiment to see the difference, partly to validate information one versus the other. So I talked last time or one time recently about I'm trying to get some information on corporate tax from Canadian Revenue Agency. That's got to be accurate, right? So I actually put it in both places to check. The second thing, which I learned from you recently, was I'm putting assets in there that I want it to use that are current assets and referencing those and saying only use those assets. So I think that's something that is a useful tool in that regard. Anything else that you would add to help me with that, making sure it's got the most current sources?
Yeah, for sure. Turn on web search, right, and tell
Right.
it
Right.
tell it to check. I was out walking and talking, of course, to Angela, my
Yeah.
ChatGPT assistant,
Yeah.
and I actually asked it a question about ChatGPT,
Yeah.
about a feature that I had heard that had been launched, and I asked it about it, and it said, "Yeah, no, it doesn't do that." And I'm like, you better check the web and make sure. And she came back, yeah, oh, you're right. It does do that.
Right.
So web search is definitely there. The default, especially if you're not going into the deep thinking models and things like
Yeah.
that, the default is to just, hey, what is in my LLM
Right
memory?
now. Yeah.
And I'm going to give you that answer off the bat. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do have to kind of be careful.
And that web search feature is something that is like was relatively new to me. So that's something I think that is really, really important.
Yeah, and it's not.
And
I don't think it's available on all models either.
uh,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
and it's interesting too because there's aspects of like ChatGPT versus Claude. I have a paid version of ChatGPT and a free version of Claude, and so I think I don't get the same level of outcome there. But I will say that and I can't remember if I mentioned this before. I had both of them create me a presentation based on a research topic, and the ChatGPT version was so like bush league in
Mm.
comparison to what Claude did.
In terms of the content or the presentation,
All of the above. The
really.
content, the depth of the content, the sources that it provided without my asking, and the presentation layout of it.
Hmm.
It was like phenomenally different. Now that was, I'm going to say, 2 months ago I did that. So I should
Hmm.
actually go back now and do almost the same thing and see what happens in both places. As we've said, they both keep evolving at
Yeah.
breakneck speed. That maybe that is, and then I didn't use any of those. What do you call them? I would call it a plug-in, but what is it that
Connectors.
connectors?
You've got
Yeah, I didn't use
connectors and you've,
any of
yeah,
that.
features. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so one observation, I think you've been spending a lot of time talking to people in Quebec lately because you call it Claude and I call it Claude. Um, but other than that, the other thing I did discover, so actually my first observation was you said you use a free version of Claude
Yeah.
and paid version of ChatGPT, and the free version of Claude was a better result than the paid GPT or ChatGPT. That's interesting. I haven't had the same experience except on the not me myself because I don't write code, but my team that writes code, they
Hmm.
much prefer Claude Code over
Interesting.
any other tool right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, one other thing too, finally on the presentation thing, there is a new tool out there that I need to tell you about. It's called Gamma.
Oh.
Gamma 3.0.
Hmm.
It will knock your socks off.
I'm writing it down.
If you tell it you want, if you upload, for instance, your presentation, the text, and say, make this look pretty and do it in this format, and
Hmm.
it'll generate the images that are appropriate. It'll format it beautifully. It'll make it into a web page or a PDF or a LinkedIn post or a Instagram post or whatever you want. It's worth taking a look.
And can you guide it towards the style, like the design style that you prefer? Like for me, and maybe it's just my corporate background. I like really simple design. I don't like lots of imagery,
It has
unless
it
it's
has
really relevant.
it has exactly those kind of triggers, and it's based on a chat, right? So you can say, look, make this simple, clean, kind of Apple style
Yeah,
presentation,
yeah,
um, and it'll do whatever you ask it
yeah.
to.
That's
And
really
the,
cool.
the free version is pretty robust. I
Okay.
suggest you give it a shot.
I'm gonna give that a try, because that's what I tried to do with this example that I did. I said create a McKinsey style presentation, and neither of them got that right. Having seen McKinsey decks before, like neither of them
Yeah,
got that right. So
yeah.
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I'm just trying to think if I had any
More pet
other.
peeves.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because um, we should probably talk about the hallucination concept a little bit and what it's making up. And it's getting better at this. Certainly for me, earlier on in the process, you've talked before about ask it what it knows about you. And for me, that has improved over time, but it's certainly very early in the process. Like in 23, it totally hallucinated as to who I was. First, it thought I was a journalist just because I worked for a media organization. Then it thought I was in government, like social services, because of the volunteer work I've done. It got me totally wrong, which I thought was interesting. It is getting better, and you've talked about like put a bunch of material in there so that it keeps learning you. But for me, it was a really good example of if you tried to do that about somebody else
Hmm.
and you didn't have all that material built up, you have to really watch, is it
Yeah,
actually telling you the truth about
yeah,
something,
yeah. It's and of course the hard part with hallucinations is they sound so good, right?
right?
Yeah, like sounds reasonable. It must be true, right? But
Yeah,
and we talked before about some ways to kind of counter that, especially for important things like going between ChatGPT and Claude and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But yeah, for sure, you gotta check and double
yeah,
check.
yeah.
But it is definitely getting better.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes what
The-
I'll do too is I'll go to the source just to do a check because it's pulled everything together. But like, especially like for somebody's bio or something, if I'm introducing them at an event,
Yeah,
then, it might create me a nice little story about them, but I'll just go back and check to make sure.
yeah. Interesting. I saw the post. I think it was actually Elon Musk posted about ChatGPT, where ChatGPT answered and said, "I don't know." which is a really quite an achievement, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole theory of an LLM is just to predict the next word,
Yeah.
not to predict, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? So it's definitely getting better that way, and I think
Hmm.
it's got some new sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
learning to.
And I think that's so interesting because it has been built originally to be predictive, right?
Mhm.
It's like like in marketing we call it like the next best action. And that's what when it was doing my bio originally, it was trying to predict who I was
Mhm.
as opposed to going and finding the actual
Yeah.
data and facts as to who I was.
Well,
It's
and
doing
like you
more of
said,
the combination now.
it was earlier on that you got those kind of
Yeah.
hallucinations, and maybe even before web search, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, this is what I have in
Hmm.
my training material, and this is what I know, and this is what I'll predict,
Yeah.
and no way to verify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
all right. Anything you want to add to this or?
so one of the challenges that I've had, although it seems to be getting better, and I don't know why, um, maybe they've just fixed it, but it was very difficult to copy and paste like whole sections into
Oh,
something else,
it really was.
right? But they seem to, at least today, seem to have fixed that. Um, because I gave a quick example of rate this article whatever, and it was okay to paste into like from ChatGPT to Cloud or whatever because it doesn't really matter the formatting. But if you wanted to put it into something like a Word document or something
Yeah.
like that, sometimes it wouldn't allow you to select the whole thing. You could only do one section at a time, and that was a pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah.
And then the
Formatting.
formatting would lose all the formatting. Anyways, it seems to be getting better that way.
And what I would say to that is it is always asking me now at the end, would you like me to output this in a
Mm,
Word document or in a PDF document that you can pass off kind of thing?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's really good. That has been a huge step.
And if it doesn't, you can ask it to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did want to show one thing, which I think is an underrated feature that people don't necessarily know about, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about here. Let me just share my window here. Okay, so this is ChatGPT, of course, and I just gave it a silly task. I said, create a game about water bottles, right? Where's my prompt? Here. Oh, hang on. Uh, and then when it comes up with the response, here it is. That's all good. And then I've gone into Canvas. This is
Mm,
Canvas,
okay.
right? And the Canvas, if I go in, there's this button over here. You can open in Canvas,
Okay. At the
right?
top. Yeah.
And let's go to this one. And now I can edit this.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can make changes as you go, as opposed to having to do copy and paste it and then maybe put it back in
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
And now it knows, okay, what you're really thinking. Um, so that I find very, very helpful. And I don't know if you know this, but you can share this actual
Hmm.
chat with people,
Right.
which is actually, I know you know this because you sent me one of those about topics for this podcast. So it was all good. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because I know it took me a while to actually figure out how to get to find that little button and
First.
how to
Yeah.
get into the canvas.
Yeah.
But once you do, it's very helpful.
Amazing. Okay.
So,
Oh, I think from today, one of the things that we have learned is even though we have things that we don't love about all these LLMs, these platforms, these tools, they seem to be addressing them, like, knocking them off. Their roadmap is they're listening to us somehow, they're realizing. And so it's not a question of, will this ever get fixed? It's really a question of just wait a minute.
yeah, how many weeks is it going to take them to get this fixed?
Right, right. And coming from the digital transformation world, that is unheard of, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, how many months, right?
Yeah,
So this is pretty amazing.
yeah. No, it's exciting times.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that drives you crazy, but only because it's not as easy as you want it to be, but it's way easier than it was before. So,
Right? No, for sure. And now I'm going to test out Canvas so I can edit on the fly there.
Sounds good. We'll
That's
see you
my
on the next
action.
episode.
Okay.
All right.
Onward.
Bye.